All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
And good morning to all of you. Everyone who finds their way here every day, I am so appreciative. I'm talking about the listeners and viewers, please. I'm not talking about the people who work on the show. The people who work on the show wouldn't be here were I not writing them checks. And I'm glad that I write them checks because they're good at what they do, damn it. That's what I'm saying.
Why are you yelling?
I'm yelling because of my enthusiasm.
Why are you yelling?
It's also laced with resentment and hate, which is the magic of who I am. Regret also.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah, that's in there. I do want to say good morning to Kim.
Morning.
Morning, Kim. Kim, how are you?
Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
A rough night last night.
What happened last night, Kim?
Kim, how are you?
I spent about 2 hours in tears.
Wow. I want to hear about that in a second. Hold on. I want to recommend a quick good morning to Albert, who is the commissioner.
Albert, thank you.
Albert, welcome back after a couple of days off.
Yeah, rough night last night also for me.
You had a rough night last night because of the Dubs, I assume, right?
Yeah, it wasn't the best of showings, but, it happens.
I don't like how you take loss so casually, Commissioner. I mean, the Dubs, game one, they're at home. It should have been Dubs-Lakers last night. I want a quick explanation before I double back to find out why Kim was in tears. Go ahead, please, Albert.
They're coming off a very emotional Game 7. It was a very, I feel like they were kind of slow out of the gates, Game 1. They didn't have as much time as the Lakers to prepare. And I think the Lakers are a pretty good team. They actually made a lot of good moves at the trade deadline. They got rid of some of the excess fat on that team. They have a lot of young, now it's weird, they have a lot of young up-and-coming players to play with LeBron. And
you have new respect for the Lakers? Is that what you're saying, Commissioner?
I do. When the season first started, I was like, wow, this is a train wreck of a team, and I love watching it.
I think you're right. At the beginning of the season, they were. They made some moves, didn't they, Commissioner?
They made a lot of reasonable moves, which is, shout out them. It's LeBron James making all the great moves for his team. So
yeah.
And he's LeBron James. He's great.
So you think Commissioner LeBron James is a player to watch?
I do, yeah. I think he's kind of a good player. I'm not sure if anybody's heard him before. But I think, Mark, this is a gentleman's sweep. This is the only win the Lakers will get. We're going to put
This is what I wanted to ask you. What was going to happen?
Foot on the gas pedal the rest of the way. I think we're ready to go.
Let's hope you're right. Commish, thank you for that. Yeah. Yeah, very, very good.
Albert, thank you.
All right. Now I want to ask Kim, why were you in tears, Kim, last night for 2 hours? I know it wasn't because of the Dubs. That's why I left you out of that conversation.
It was not because of the Dubs. It's because of a TV show called Firefly Lane.
Oh, and what is this TV show, Firefly Lane?
It's a series on Netflix.
Yeah.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah.
I started watching it last season thinking it was a great story about two best friends. One of them a news reporter.
Wow.
That hit home to me, and I thought this is going to be great.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was to come.
Sad.
No. It was like Terms of Endearment and Steel Magnolias all kind of rolled into one feminine cry fest.
Wow.
Yeah. That's all I'll say. I don't want to
crying right out of the chute, or do they work you into it?
Well, they have you a little emotional here and there.
I see.
But they really pack a punch at the end.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it at the end they really KO you, is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, just on your knees, down.
Man.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry to. I mean,
so if you like a good cry, Firefly
Lane
might be for you.
We all could use a good cry, I think, sometimes. I also feel that most of us are just a heartbeat away from being in tears every day.
This is true. Yeah.
I think it does happen.
Yeah, I'm always one Jordan Poole possession away from crying.
Yeah. It is true that many things can provoke the tears. You never know if it's really you're crying about the show. You're crying about something else that you've been choking down since childhood. Or you're crying about some future anxiety that you might have about the future, you know. Just don't know. That's the way emotion is, right? I don't know, these insights that I provide.
What?
I provide these insights to you at no cost. Here it is. Susan says, I know, Kim. The book had me openly sobbing, that probably is. Haven't watched season 2 yet. Oh, this is the second season of it.
Yeah, second season. Yeah. Whew.
Does the reporter, the person, the news person that you identify with, does she have some illness or something? Is that what's happening?
I don't want to wreck it for people. That would be a spoiler.
Oh, I see. It would be a spoiler. I see. I kind of feel like illness is a little bit of a cheat, but I also feel like illness is actually kind of reality.
It is.
So I'm kind of divided on it. You know, from a narrative standpoint, I feel like it's a cheat, but I don't know that it's a, I don't know that's wrong. I mean, life is full of pretty tough diagnoses.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. I will say that usually I try to avoid, the death or the illness type of shows.
Here's the sad
music. So sometimes you just don't see it coming.
You don't. Sometimes sadness awaits you in the shadows, even if you prepared yourself. Well, all I can say is that we try to sprinkle a little happiness.
I'm not gonna cry.
Into every morning.
Big shout out.
And it helps to have everybody here.
I'm not gonna cry.
Kim's cry was last night. My cry could be later this morning.
You okay?
Let me tell you what's happening. All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
We've got a pretty good show, and one of the things that could bring me to tears is the appearance of Pat Thurston. She'll be in hour 2. Yes, Pat Thurston, the longtime host of her own show across Bay Area media. She will join us in the 11 o'clock hour.
Are you kidding me?
I am not kidding.
Do you know how many times I've asked her to come on and she's always told me no, and she said yes to you?
Well,
you
know what?
Maybe
now? It's about the way you ask, Kim. Have you ever thought about that?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
Exactly. I just think that maybe you need to look at yourself.
Wow.
Maybe you're a little bit too gabby about I was crying last night with Pat. And you should be more gabby about how are you, Pat? You see? You see the difference? Okay. Little tip. Now, the other thing we're doing at 10:35 in the ramp up to the coronation is we're talking to a British guy, which is very, very exciting. I mean, it really is exciting. We talked to a few really cool British people. Yeah, we're not doing it yet.
Ladies and gentlemen, This is Talk to a British Guy.
We're not doing it yet, but thank you. But I will show you this. Apropos of that music and that announce from Shadow. Look at what I uncovered from Star Magazine in my garage. And this is just in a routine, it's a coincidence. Charles leaves Diana and moves out of Palace. Fairy tale marriage collapses. That's a Star World exclusive that I'm showing you, Kim.
What are you doing with Star Magazine anyway? Isn't that like tabloid trash?
I don't know why I picked that up, but I had it in the garage, and literally as I was cleaning out the garage, I also found all of these love letters and stuff from people I've been involved. It was really quite emotional. Come to think of it, I almost cried yesterday as I reflected on my miserable life. So, yeah, how about that?
I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, it was pretty powerful day for both of us, I guess. Look,
that's not fake. That's real.
Yeah. And then I will get to the news of the day, and we'll get into some of the conversations around the news of the day. I do have a major announcement, though.
A major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
I have 2 spots left to open for the happy half hour, which is actually 45 minutes of an off-air meetup that we're doing with only a handful of listener viewers. The reason we're doing it is to raise money for the show, but it's also the first ever chance to have you on with us. And again, this is off the air, so we can talk about anything. We don't have to worry about copyright strikes. We can play any music. We can do whatever we want. It's a Zoom meetup, and there are only 15 spots because we want everybody to be able to participate. You have too many people, and you end up with people frustrated that they can't get a word in. So we're looking forward to you being part of this. John Daly has just said he'll be on. Albert said that he's going to pop on. So you'll have, I think Courtney is coming, and she'll be on camera, which she's not usually for the show. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We have 2 spots open, and if you want to be part of it, just register with us. Name, do you have the, Albert, now would be a good time to put the actual, you can, the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com is where you register. I was thinking of the actual card. There you go. It's the happy half hour. It's actually 45 minutes, as we've said. It's a meet and greet with the team. It's Thursday, 7 p.m. to 7:45 p.m. It's $75 for a private off-air Zoom meetup. The reason we charge is just to raise money for the show. And again, there are only 15 spots available. I have 2 left. The Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. Name, email, and phone number, and we'll tell you how to vector it in. And I believe at midnight tonight, or by midnight tonight, everybody will have their links. And then we're locked in. And we do our show on Thursday as usual, and we do our happy half-hour meetup, the first ever, at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. So will Albert be participating or watching the Warriors game? This is a good question. Albert, it does conflict with the Warriors game?
Yes, it will be, but I'll be multitasking all throughout. So
Albert is a ninja when it comes to multitasking.
I think the answer there is he'll be watching the Warriors game and kind of participating.
While participating. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that I got an email, and it was really a good one with a question about this. Let me take off my credibility glasses for a moment, and I can share it with you. Let me see. This is from Lee.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
My wife and I, we have a question about your private happy half hour. My wife and I listen to your show every day. We were thinking about buying a slot for the happy half hour, but didn't know exactly how that would work. Would she alone be able to watch? Be part of the event? Or could we both sit in on it if I didn't talk?
Be very quiet.
Wow.
Listen to me. I don't want to hear you.
Or could we both sit in on it? Do we pay $75 for each of us? How does that work? Well, this is a good question you've asked, Lee, and frankly, it's one that we should have made clear. Kim, what would be your opinion on this?
I think they should both come.
Of course they should. That's the right answer. You're welcome to come as a couple, Lee. You are. It's fine. So, not 2 separate links, though. If you can both be on the same link, that'd be great. We just don't want too many Hollywood squares there with boxes in Zoom, everybody. So the answer is yes, you can both attend. We have 2 spots left, and I hope you get one of them. The Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com is the address.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Now, much to do today. I do want to touch on, I guess, what is this ridiculous game of chicken that is played occasionally with the debt limit. There is a growing concern that the U.S. could default on its debt. It seems inconceivable that's going to happen.
Inconceivable.
But it does seem inconceivable. Did you put in, Albert, the story? Here it is. Thank you. Yeah. There's an interesting question that is cropping up. We've talked about the debt limit with David K. Johnson, and we talked to you about it. I'd be happy to talk about it more. By the way, I got angry email not related to the debt that I'll mention to you later. But I'm happy to discuss anything, as you know. The question that is interesting that's coming up now in relation to the debt limit is its constitutionality. Is it constitutional? The Biden administration is now entertaining a legal theory that it may not be constitutional. It's a constitutional challenge to the debt limit. Now, under this theory, the government would be required by the 14th Amendment to continue issuing new debt to pay bondholders, Social Security recipients, government employees, others as well that are owed government money, even if Congress fails to lift the limit before the limit date. That theory rests on the 14th Amendment clause stating that, quote, the validity of the public debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrectional rebellion shall not be questioned. Legal scholars contend that language overrides the statutory borrowing limit, which caps the federal debt at $31.4 trillion. It's a ridiculous number, as you know. And it requires congressional approval to raise or lift that limit, that borrowing limit. Economic and legal officials at the White House, the Treasury Department, and the Justice Department have made that theory a subject of intense and now unresolved debate in recent months. It's unclear whether Biden would support such a move. That would have serious ramifications for the economy, almost undoubtedly elicit legal challenges from Republicans. Continuing to issue debt in that situation would avoid, though, an immediate disruption in consumer demand. You'd maintain government payments. Borrowing costs would go up, of course. I mean, you know, Janet Yellen is saying June 1st is more or less your drop dead date on raising this cap. McCarthy is meeting with Biden, but they both are dug in, and both sides so intensely dug in on these issues related to government spending, that it may be hard to find some kind of, quote, middle ground. But that idea somehow that you could, with a group of legal scholars, launch a challenge to the constitutionality of this debt cap, it's a fascinating one. The Constitution's text, this is a quote, bars the federal government from defaulting on the debt, even a little, even for a short while.
Right.
That's from a constitutional scholar at the University of Oregon's Law School. There's a case to be made that if Congress decides to default on the debt, the president has the power and the obligation to pay it without congressional permission, even if that requires borrowing more money to do it. And then other legal scholars, of course, say that it is constitutional. So this is a fascinating back and forth, but there are real world consequences to all of this. Meantime, Morgan Stanley is dumping 5% of their workforce. It's about 3,000 jobs. Just as you look at the banking sector and you look at finance, bankers and traders impacted the most. A post-pandemic slump has dragged all of Wall Street down. The job cuts would happen at the end of June and the end of the first quarter. Morgan Stanley trimmed 2% of its workforce back in December. So as the banking sector and finance sector is hit by economic realities, there's news like that. And I want you to be seated for this. Kevin Costner and his wife, Christine, are filing for divorce.
What?
Yeah. Everybody all at once.
Something bad happened there. Oh.
You think? Worse than normal?
I want to, I don't have any information, so it's all hearsay, gossip, and conjecture.
Well,
you do not know what you are talking
true.
about.
None of us do, but it's
the way that divorce announcement came out, after discovering, something, but not saying what.
Oh, did they say that something was discovered?
Well, it came to light that there's no way I can continue this marriage. It sounds like some type of cheating scandal.
Wow.
I'm just saying. I have no information or proof of that.
How much cheating do you think she was allowing before that? They've been married 18 years and he's Kevin Costner, everybody. You know what I'm saying? I'm just giving you the reality.
Who he is. No.
No, he's out on location. You know what they say, what happens on location stays on location. Or they say this, what happens on location never happened.
Oh.
That's the real adage. And so an adage is a ding word. Thank you. The thing is, I would suggest to you respectfully that he may have, and I have no information on this, except for the fact that he's a major Hollywood star with great sex appeal, and he's alone on location for a long time. I'm guessing. Anyway.
Yeah, it was Kevin's rep. The rep said it is with great sadness that circumstances beyond his control have transpired, which has resulted in Mr. Costner having to participate in a dissolution of marriage action.
Oh,
circumstances
dissolution.
beyond his
Whole bunch
control.
of ding words in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Circumstances beyond his control. What does that mean? Does that mean she cheated?
No, I don't think so. Well, maybe. I don't know. Are you ready to go back and now say she cheated? Are you going back on your theory?
I didn't say the theory was that someone cheated.
I see. Okay, you didn't. You're right. You didn't. Christine Baumgartner is her name, and she's a lovely gal. 18 years together. It's really. I don't know the answer to this. I am now going to tell you. Kevin Costner is 68 years old. How old is Christine, his wife? I don't know the answer to this, so you're going to have to check this, Albert. But before you check it, take a guess. How old is Kevin Costner's wife, who will now be seeking a divorce? He's 68.
She is 57 is my guess.
You're going to guess
like
57? Let's just look into the chat and see what people are guessing. Jason guesses 41. 49 says Vilma. 56 says Natalie.
I'm impressed. People are going old.
Judy, 46. Well, I mean, he's 68. I mean, 56
That means she's
is
probably
still...
like 32, right? In Hollywood? That's
well,
not how it's done?
Let me give you a clue. I mean, again, and I told you this before, but just to remind you, they've got 3 kids, I think. I mean, don't they? I mean, they've got kids who are... They've been married 18 years, so she can't be, she can't be 25, right?
I'm going to go with Mike. Mike says 45. I think that's probably about right.
45. 40, says Sandra Thomas. Wow. So you think they got married, that would mean, what, back when she was just 22 years old? Possible. The couple split briefly in 2003. Baumgartner wanted to have children. Costner wasn't sure that he should have any more, but the two ultimately did work it out, tied the knot in Aspen, Colorado, welcomed 3 children over the next several years. This is the second divorce for the 68-year-old Costner. And now I ask you, Albert, how old is Christine, his wife, seeking divorce, please?
She's 49.
Wow,
Oh,
49. Okay. I think we will be awarding points to Tom is in there. Julie is in there. I think 49 was in there as a...
What do you get with the points?
Vilma
Can you
got it.
cash them in for merch or something?
Yes. Oh, my
like,
gosh.
Depending on how many points you've accrued?
You get nothing.
That's right. That is exactly it. You get nothing.
There should be like a Mark Thompson casino card, where you just keep accruing. Yeah.
I have to say, now you're thinking. I like the way you're thinking, and these are all good suggestions.
Ooh, it's a wild idea.
It might work. It might work. It might work. So
Yes, Ricky O'Bear, you get nothing. That's right.
You get nothing. It's a rich tradition on the show. I'm also going to get into some heavier chat with our coming British guest, Anthony. Not just about the Royals, but about world events. So I have this little morsel as well then before all that goes down.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I don't know why I was so taken by this, but indeed I was. Dick Van Dyke's pals are afraid that the 97-year-old is working his way into the grave, Kim. That's right. They're concerned that Dick Van Dyke, who's taken this new grueling Days of Our Lives gig, is working himself to the point of exhaustion.
No.
He's 97 years old. His wife is concerned. By the way, how old is Dick Van Dyke's wife? He's 97. I'm no numbers guy, but that's close to 100, I think, 97.
I kind of remember that being a wide gap. I'm going to say she's in her 30s.
What?
Yeah.
You think Dick Van Dyke married a woman in her 30s?
I do. I think that's true.
All right, she's going 30s.
I wasn't gonna hesitate and say 32 to be funny, but Kim stole my thunder. And
Kim took 32
ridiculous.
and she wasn't being funny.
Yeah.
Oh. How old is Dick Van Dyke's wife? Albert, what do you think? He's 97.
63 is my guess. Yeah.
How
63.
old?
63.
63. So let's just do that. 63, 73, 83, 93. So that would be 34 years younger. And by the way...
Who's Mark Thompson?
No, I was looking for the applause. Thank you. What are the... 63 seems to be a popular answer. 48 says Sandy. Anyway, we'll make short work of this. The 97-year-old Dick Van Dyke is married to Arlene Silver. She is 51. Everyone.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
51. Okay.
51. She's concerned that this new Days of Our Lives gig that Dick Van Dyke has is too much for him physically. She's already taken his car keys away, by the way. He doesn't drive anymore. But he still can perform, and he was in the Mary Poppins reboot. He was very good. So, I don't know what Dick Van Dyke's story is. I will tell you this, and this dovetails to something we're going to just touch on anyway. Days of Our Lives, you don't need to worry about Dick going to work anymore because they're all on strike. The writers are on strike in Hollywood, as you're well aware.
Yeah.
And I don't think this is going to be a short strike. And the reason I say that is that both sides are a little like the debt limit. They're dug in, but unlike the debt limit, there is no drop dead date. And unlike the debt limit, there is no negotiation going on, really. In other words, you may see the negotiation between Biden and McCarthy on the U.S. debt as performative. You might see it, in other words, as, just for show. But there will be some kind of deal reached. Now, eventually, I would imagine that the Hollywood writers will reach some deal with the studios. But I think it could be quite an eventually, because the two sides are not talking. I mean, they've both put forward offers and demands, but that's not talking. Even when they talk about negotiations, there hasn't been a negotiation. Based on what I'm reading and those I've talked about I should say, that are close to the negotiation, they say that they really haven't budged. So they're concerned with residuals that don't exist anymore, right? They busted down everybody's quotes on the front end at the WGA, meaning everybody's working for less. It's starting to feel like a gig worker deal because you go in oftentimes into these mini writer rooms, you beat out a bunch of episodes, and then you're not paid for those episodes. You're not brought on as a full-timer, in effect. So the Writers Guild is asking for that to be reshaped. And they're also asking for a piece of streaming because the traditional models about reruns, right, that would normally exist in syndication, and you'd get a back-end revenue stream, that increasingly doesn't exist because these shows are going to streaming. And streaming, as the increasingly leading, I'll say increasingly leading, soon to be leading way that people consume content, these revenue streams don't exist. So these writers are really in trouble. I think it could be a very difficult negotiation and strike. And so I think
Yesterday,
it could go on a
Rob
while.
Lowe was on the picket line. There he is with the writers hanging out. You're going to see, I think, a lot of, celebrities, actors, performers in solidarity on those picket lines, marching with people.
I think you're going to see it early on. I think these lines are going to look different in about 2 months. I think the heat of Southern California and out there in the sun begins to wear down. This is true of, by the way, any protest. You have to, go through sometimes incredibly difficult climatic conditions. You'll recall the pipeline. Help me, Albert. What was it called? The pipeline protest where the
Keystone.
It was. I think it was
Google it.
part of the Keystone. That's not the. It was an acronym, and I've lost it. But anyway, where Native peoples were protesting it, and it was related to the pipeline. I think it was related to Keystone. But anyway, the conditions that they were dealing with, the weather was brutal. I mean, it was incredibly difficult winter with wind chills well below zero and snow drifts and all the rest. So
was
that was a different
Access pipeline protest.
Dakota Access. Thank you very much. That's the one. Yeah. So all I'm trying to say is, that exists in so many of these different activist movements. You have to be able to power through that. So anyway, a long, hot summer in Hollywood. You're without money. It's a very difficult situation in another 4, 5, 6 months. This could go on another year. Shows are already closing down. You've seen the late night shows already having now to go to reruns. Same is true of Saturday Night Live. Any kind of live variety show that requires writing, it's going to be shut down. I don't know how it's going to affect. I think reality television will flourish a little bit because there's less, quote, writing, but it's going to be tricky. So that's the latest on that. Smash the like button like a boss.
Smash it with your iron rod.
I will get to Tucker Carlson and such things a little bit later. Also, Anthony Davis joins us in minutes. First, Kim's news. And then we'll get on to Anthony. Thanks for being here, Mark Thompson.
What he's got going here is a situation.
He does, yeah.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and let us start with the situation going on, unfolding as we speak, really. Atlanta police say there is an active shooter at an area hospital there. Officers are currently on the scene at North Side Hospital in the Midtown area. Multiple reports say 4 people have been shot. Eyewitnesses say people are being loaded into ambulances. Again, this is in Atlanta near the North Side Hospital area. The suspect in Friday night's Texas shooting scheduled to appear in court today for a preliminary hearing. He's being held on a $5 million bond. The suspect's wife also under arrest for allegedly helping him avoid capture during a 4-day manhunt. The Federal Reserve is expected to announce a 10th straight rate hike today. The rate increase would likely be at a 0.25 percentage point. Rate hikes frequently lead to higher home and credit card finance prices. So here we go again, right? Today is World Press Freedom Day. President Biden recognizing 2 American journalists that are being detained on this World Press Freedom Day. They are Evan Gershkovich, a Wall Street Journal reporter arrested in Russia in late March on espionage charges. Austin Tice is a freelance journalist who was reporting in Syria when he was arrested in 2012. Here in California, a university making some changes after 3 stabbings in the last week. UC Davis moved night classes online, tripled security, and expanded the Safe Rides program. All of the attacks happened off campus. 2 have been deadly, including a 20-year-old student walking home Saturday night. Police haven't said if they're connected, but they are working on a suspect sketch. A new push to overturn California's waiting period to buy a gun. A lawsuit filed yesterday claims the law prevents people from arming themselves for immediate self-defense. 4 gun groups want to end the 10-day wait, which has been in place since 1996. This is the second time, though, that California has been sued over this. The first case reached the Supreme Court but wasn't heard. The Attorney General is now reviewing the complaint. And it's a sad, sad day for the shoppers among us. Yes, it is. Nordstrom is closing down in San Francisco.
What?
In a statement, I know, I hear, I'm It's flabbergasted. The department store chain citing the changing dynamics of the downtown San Francisco market as one reason for the closures. They're closing down the downtown location in San Francisco and the Nordstrom Rack.
Where is it? The Nordstrom?
It's at the Westfield Mall Center. Yeah. But I mean, it's
whole
one of those
floors of the Westfield Mall,
whole floors and chandeliers and a pianist and I mean, it's a big deal.
Yes, Kim, you shop really in the manner in which you should be shopping.
As well,
chandeliers and surrounded by the.
As one does.
Yes,
so,
of course.
But no more. No more.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Nordstrom Rack, you were saying.
And Nordstrom Rack, too. I mean, all of Nordstrom, they're out of San Francisco. Done. Also closing.
Well, I was going to get you all gifts at Nordstrom this year for Christmas, but
is that your excuse?
Well, I have the gift cards, and now
You get nothing.
Sadly, you won't be able to get anything. Yeah, I'm sorry about
famous weight loss company is also going out of business. Jenny Craig informed employees by email they are shutting down because they are unable to secure additional financing.
Wow.
Jenny
It
Craig.
is like a curse. Because I mean, that's extraordinary. Think about them 10 years ago. They were a robust organization, Jenny Craig.
They had been in business for 40 years.
Oprah owns, I think, a part of Jenny Craig.
I thought Oprah was the Weight Watchers.
Oh, you might be right. I have them.
I think you're getting your companies confused. But
yeah, you're right.
Jenny Craig had been in business for
that conversation?
40 years. They had been looking for a buyer, can't find one. Out they go.
Yeah.
Passenger at San Francisco International Airport is being banned from flying on United Airlines. Why, you might ask? What do you have to do to get banned from flying on a certain airline? Well, he was caught on camera punching a crew member Sunday night. That'll do it. Officials say it started when he and his wife were in the wrong seats and asked to move. Right? I mean, if you're in the wrong seats and someone says, "Hey, I think you're in my seat," you get up and move, right?
Yeah, it shouldn't be a big deal. Right.
Yeah, it was a big deal. The 47-year-old man from Texas reportedly became unruly when asked to move and was then told to get off the plane.
Oh, from Texas.
Yeah.
Y'all can all go to hell, and I'm going back to Texas.
Yeah.
He was at SFO at the time. United calling the behavior unacceptable. The man was cited and released and banned from United Airlines.
I don't know why people feel as though airlines and airplanes are the places that they should somehow let out their frustration with life and irritation with others. I just don't understand it.
I'm willing to
Why
bet
can't
my
everybody
lunch
just
there was
sit
alcohol
down?
involved.
We've all got crappy seats. Yeah, maybe you're right. I mean, maybe it was that.
I'd be willing to bet my lunch that there's alcohol.
You're
involved.
probably
A few
right.
cocktails at the airport bar. Maybe,
Yeah.
you get on the
Just
plane.
unbelievable.
You
Just
feel
the
a
worst.
little angry. Okay, last story. A woman was stung more than 75 times by a swarm of bees. I'm not joking. It happened during a family photo shoot. Those are going to be some great pictures in Arizona on Sunday. The bees started attacking a mother and her two children. The mom managed to get the kids in the car to safety, but she suffered the brunt of this attack. 75 times she was stung. I mean, yikes.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Brutal. It's brutal. And then I saw the video of them where they're trying to get rid of the bees with, I think, like these hoses, water they were trying to spray.
They had to use foam to calm those bees down, is what they were saying. Yeah, they used the foam. They rescued the group. They carried the kids to safety. The mother was treated. She's recovering from those. But ABC had a really good interview with a bee specialist. And I want to see if I can show you what she had to say. It's kind of ominous. I mean, you don't think of bees as being like this, but apparently, yeah, bees are like this. Let me show you what I can.
When antagonized, I guess they can be a little bit
there's
unruly.
okay. Yeah, well, apparently, don't
Maybe
mess
you can
with
just
bees.
summarize what she said. Yeah,
She
she
the
said
bees can no longer get you because they're very good at finding their targets, and they will follow you for a long time potentially, and they will wait for you as well.
What? They'll wait for you? They'll follow you and they'll wait for you? Yeah, that kind of struck me as, oh my God.
Yeah.
So the Mark Thompson Show is crowdfunded.
That's what we could use a little bit more of on this show. A little more commitment. You see, the bees are committed.
They'll follow you and they'll wait for you.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can help keep us going by contributing via Patreon or PayPal. You can find those links and so much more at themarkthompsonshow.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
I've told you, it's never easy being in this business.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, he's waited patiently. We have quickly becoming my favorite British fellow coming, and I'm excited that he joins us as we ramp up to the crown and a coronation this week. Yes, it's a certain majesty.
Ladies and gentlemen,
yes.
This is Talk to a British Guy.
Yes, he is not just any British guy. He is a magnificent host on YouTube. And he has many, many followers, and he's quite skilled as well when it comes to politics and analyzing world events. Please welcome Anthony Davis, everyone.
How am I supposed to follow an introduction like that? You really raised the stakes for me. Talk about making it difficult.
I felt your last appearance was too pedestrian in my introduction, so I wanted to crank it up for you a little bit.
You certainly did that, my friend.
I am so excited.
I feel underdressed.
I think one of the things about this coronation deal is that there's so much in the way of costume and revelry and tradition and ritual. I mean, it's steeped in so much crap, but it's all theater crap. So if you're into a show, which I always like, there is a lot there for you. On the other hand, you could see it all as massively wasteful. I think that can be a pretty credible argument made there. I'm guessing, not knowing Anthony Davis, I'm guessing where you are on this position. I'm guessing you're not much into all of this coronation royalty stuff, but that's just a guess. Where are you on it?
You guess wrong, my friend.
Oh,
you
wow.
guess wrong. I mean, firstly, I love the fact that you call it costume because, of course, it's not costume. I mean, this is a pageantry. It's traditional. It's protocol. These outfits have been worn since medieval times, right? This is tradition. This is what makes Britain different to other countries. It's what gives Britain its kind of culture and its flavor. It's the reason tourists flock to it. And, you know, I've met King Charles, I should call him now. I haven't actually been in England since he became the king, so I still think Queen Elizabeth is still alive. But you get a sense in England that this is so much part of the fabric of the country that to take it away, to strip it away, to become a republic would mean that there would be a great loss to society. So yes, it's expensive. You know, this coronation is going to cost around $125 million or thereafter. It's a huge affair. Takes place in exactly the same way that Queen Elizabeth II had her coronation in 1953. It'll look very similar to that, although you know that was televised. It was the first major worldwide televised event. Imagine like television in 1953. And there hasn't been a coronation since. I mean, this is massive if you think about it in terms of historical events. Right. And this time it's going to be in 4K. Right? Last time it was kind of grainy and black and white. This is going to be in 4K. This is going to be the most visually stimulating thing that you can watch on television. And I recommend it, you know, and I am a fan of the monarchy for all of those reasons. People in America do not understand, and I make this argument a lot, that the Queen or the King or whoever the monarch is, it's ceremonial. They're not a kind of political leader. They stay out of politics. But it just keeps tradition alive. So, you know, we're not ruled by them, even though it says that in the national anthem.
Yeah, you're right. The role of royalty has morphed.
Yeah.
And certainly the last... the Queen, the last person, as you suggest, to go through a coronation like this, she really sat there and presided over a an England and a Britain that was becoming undone, right? I mean, the British Empire was being dissembled, if you will, under her reign. Isn't that right?
And you can't criticize her for that, because she recognized that the wrongs of her ancestors, stealing territory and being responsible for the slave trade and everything that went with that. Her way of dealing with that was when a country decided that it wanted to separate from the empire, which of course was rebranded the British Commonwealth, just to make it sound a little less impactful. She let them go, and she often attended the ceremony to say goodbye. And, she understood that countries need their sovereignty. But for me, there was something kind of fun. When I was younger, I remember going to the Bahamas, and they had pictures up of the Queen. And they go, the Queen came here, and they weren't talking about another Queen. They were talking about my Queen. And I thought, wow, here I've traveled like 3,000 miles, and they're still talking about that same person. So, I felt quite sad when she passed away, so young. She had a whole life ahead of her. What was she? 93, 95?
Yeah.
She did pretty well.
Yeah, she and the royals tend to live a long time. They have access to good health care.
Well, they eat well, they don't do junk food. This is the truth about processed food, bacon and sausages. It's like, stay away from that stuff if you want to live to a ripe old age like a king or a queen. Of course, I mean, it's generational. Years ago, the original kings and queens, some of them didn't make it past 25 or 35. But certainly this new generation, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, her husband, who died just a couple of years before her, he was pushing 100. I mean, these people are amazing. It's a bit like Dianne Feinstein. I mean, why don't these people die?
Well, Dianne Feinstein, I'd suggest, is far more dangerous in this new kind of position where I think it's indefensible that she hasn't retired, as you.
I agree.
And as our audience knows, I'm quite animated about this subject. But let me ask you about this. And this, you did surprise me with your position on this, and I'm delighted to be surprised. I'm actually really. I love that you love it, because it's. I
love it. Like, I've got books on her, and I watched the funeral in full length. On streaming it in 4K on the BBC. So I felt like I was there. Like, I sat really close to the screen, so I had it in my peripheral vision. Like, I really wanted to kind of be there. I wasn't prepared to pay for a flight, but I was certainly prepared to stick with it. But I lived very close to Buckingham Palace. I lived in like a crappy area around the back, old red light district area in London. And so I would walk past the Buckingham Palace every day on my way to my radio studio, my place of work. And I felt like King George V walking up the Mall in the pink pavement. I would sometimes trot, and take coconuts with me to give the impression that I was on a horse. So, I do have a kind of love of it. But, people of my age have had quite a positive experience of the royal family, and we've seen them fall down like regular families. I mean, Prince Andrew, with his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, he has been, he's been stripped of his title, he's been stripped of his military awards. He is not going to take any part in the coronation. Prince Harry has now been kind of extricated effectively, and off of the back of his book Spare. So and there's been divorces and all sorts of, mental health issues, and obviously the death of Diana. I mean, that family has been through quite a lot. So I have empathy for the fact that they are still, at the end of the day, a regular family. They're just very rich.
Yeah, Tom is right. Extricated is a ding word. Well done, well done. Now, I do want to ask you about your feelings then about the new king. I mean, it's interesting because as Americans, and we see this a lot in our chat as we've talked about this in the ramp up to the coronation, as Americans, Charles becomes a more troubling figure for us to embrace because we put him to some purity test that we would never put to anybody else, and that's what we do. Our same thing with our politicians, as you're aware. Whereas he played around on Diana, who was the most beloved royal figure, I would suggest, in the modern era, and that Camilla component has so reminded everyone of that it's hard for him to get that stink off him, despite the fact that he seems like a pretty solid dude.
I don't think that's the sentiment in the UK. I don't think that they seed Camilla as a stink. He always was in love with Camilla. He was never in love with Diana. He was forced to marry Diana because of, at the time in the 1981, whatever it was, that was the done thing. She was a perfect princess. And the fact that he had been having this kind of secret relationship with Camilla was married, and that was the reason why he couldn't marry her, aside from the fact that she wasn't that kind of young. I mean, remember, Diana was so young. She was like 15 when he first met her, and 17 when they started dating, and like 19 when they got married. I mean, it's ridiculous. Who's going to survive a marriage when you get together that young? And she loved him. She really did fall for him, but it was not reciprocated. And so again, these are the types of things that happen in normal families. And why should we think that that family would escape these kind of domestic problems just because they're royals? So really, everybody in the UK thinks that Camilla is the person that Charles should have married all along, and for that reason, they'll forgive her.
It's interesting that, and I think you've touched on something so important, that the way that you see the British body politic, or the crew in Britain digests all of this in a different way than we do in the States.
Well, because two things can coexist. You see, this is like people who argue that you can't be on the left and support capitalism. It's like these things are, we're too far gone in society. And so everything can coexist. It's a bit like having a balanced diet, isn't it? It's just everything in moderation. And there has to be some moderation with feelings about a human family. And yeah, you can be like, I'm a Republican and I don't believe in royals and they're stealing money. It's like, well, yeah, okay, if you want to think that, but like there's a middle ground. And that is, look at the plus side and look at the minus side. I do think that the royal family in the UK is going to evolve under Charles. And Charles has always thought of himself, even as a prince, as a modernizer. So it's going to be a slimmed down coronation. It's not going to be 8 hours long. It's going to be 3 hours long. The representatives of the world will be there, but the guest list is kind of fine tuned. I think Joe Biden won't be attending because presidents don't, but I think Jill Biden is attending. Because I think she got a coupon for a flight or something, and she didn't. I think it was like it was one of those companion vouchers, and if she didn't use it before the end of May, then it becomes invalid.
Jill uses the royal coupon. Yeah, I don't think that this is Greg. The answer is, well, I'll let you answer this, but I don't think she is going to become queen. Anyway, the question for Anthony Davis: how come Camilla will be queen, but Elizabeth's husband Philip was not king? Now, will she be? She's not going to be queen, is she? Or
she's
what
queen
is the
consort,
which is important, right?
So again, it's like it's semantics, and you can be very cut and dry about these things. Or you see, this is the thing about the English language, which is different in the American English, and that is that American English is very literal, right? So you refer to eyeglasses. Well, we just call them glasses, right? But I think Americans are like, oh, well, there's other glasses that you drink out of, so you have to differentiate. And it's like, we trust that you're smart enough to know that you're talking about glasses and glasses. Like horseback riding. We don't say that. We just say horse riding. Where are you going to sit? On its head? So there's a whole kind of collection of phrases and words.
How dare you, sir?
Which we have to kind of understand that, yes, she's queen consort, but she's not queen. She's not the head of state. So she is the consort in the same way that the Duke of Edinburgh remained the Duke of Edinburgh. And that was part of the agreement when he married Queen Elizabeth II. And, with that, we kind of make allowances for something to sound a certain way, but not mean it.
Right. That's very well said. And I like the drill down on the language itself, because I never even thought of that.
So many words like that. I mean, I've had to learn a whole new language moving to the US. And when if I pull up at the drive-thru and I want to order food, I have to do it in an American accent, because forget it. If they can't see my lips moving, they don't know what I want. If I ask for water, forget that. I mean,
There's never been anything like this.
I have to say, though, I always feel as though the Brits who come here have such an easy time of it, because we just worship your every word because it sounds so refined,
Well, I'm not going to challenge that. You know, if you think I'm refined, A, you don't know me, and B, great.
I actually so enjoy you. The weekend show is what you do on the Midas Touch Network on YouTube. And you talk about a lot of stuff. And I see you weighing in on very heavy issues that are affecting this country. But there is I always feel a fresh perspective that you get from journalists from overseas, and you're one of those. And so I wonder if you can give me some first impressions or just some general impressions as we only have another minute or so. But Anthony, you know, we're on the brink of this debt limit thing, as you know. There's a whole standoff there. There is, give me a word on that, because, you know, to see the government sort of held hostage by what are extreme positions is always disquieting. You know, it just reminds you of how easily we can be derailed, I guess might be a way to think of it.
Well, in the same way that you thought that the coronation is theater, I think the kind of debt ceiling game is theater, because there's no reason for it, right? There's no it's not necessary. It's not a necessary argument. The government basically agrees the funding, and the government should be the government, and the government should include both houses, no matter which political party is involved, because what you care about, the common ground, is the United States of America. You do not want it to default. So, of course, you approve it, because that's what it costs. And the US has got more money than pretty much every other country. It can afford it. So the whole thing is a theatrical ploy and a theatrical game that Kevin McCarthy is playing, because, you know, he doesn't have a huge amount of credibility. You know, it took 15 votes to get in the speaker role, and he's now under the tenure of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who really is running that party, it seems. So this is just, and it happens every time that there is this kind of argument over the defaulting on the debt. It's just a very theatrical game, and somebody has to give. But the sadness for me is the fact that it's not putting the country first. And it proves to me that Republicans are not really interested in the country as a whole. They want to split it up. They want to have a national divorce. They want to own the libs, and they will crash the economy in order to do that.
I think that that's very well said. I think this own the libs thing is real. What is the Champagne Wishes pronounced? Pronounced Jaguar, he's saying.
Jaguar.
And he also wants you, and say schedule, please.
Schedule.
There you go. All right, that's very well put. All right.
Thank you.
Hey, Anthony, you know,
Thank you.
Yeah, I really, we love your takes. You have a lot of people here who are big fans as well. So I would love it if we could exploit you again for a few minutes in the weeks ahead.
Sure.
Especially as we get into, I'd love to, this country is so lopsided in the way the courts really tend to run things, and now I'd suggest are seizing power in ways that we've never seen them before, at least in the modern era. And this Supreme Court is, I mean, untethered, it would seem, both in terms of what they are going to do from an activist judge standpoint, and also from the standpoint, apparently, of any kind of ethical underpinning. As we leave, I wonder if you can give me a quick thought on that.
Well, the fact that you guys have a political court, a Supreme Court or High Court that is political, is bonkers, right? It's bonkers. I can't think of another word. You can't have politics in justice. It's not a thing. It's certainly not a thing where I'm from, and most of Europe as well. You just don't have political judges. A judge, I wouldn't know the politics of any of the High Court judges in the UK, or even in the International Criminal Court, or any of these places that are considered high courts.
When you say you wouldn't know, let me just sorry to interrupt, but would you say I wouldn't know based on their decisions, or because there are politics in all of these judges everywhere, all over the world? The question is whether those politics enter into their deliberative process and their ruling.
Their talent, you know, that's their skill, their craft.
Right.
In the same way that I, as a journalist, can have a personal opinion about politics and a persuasion, and yet when I'm doing the news, I just give the facts and I don't have a political skew. That is the craft of journalism. In the same way that the craft of judging, if you are a judge, is that you are skilled enough and intelligent enough to leave your politics in the foyer. And unfortunately, that has not happened. The Supreme Court obviously is now stacked conservative, but it's not even conservative, it's extremist, because banning abortion is not normal. When it's been precedent for 50 years, it is not normal. It's an extremist position. And they all lied about precedent when they were interviewed about Roe or about Dobbs. They all lied about that. So it does not surprise me that Clarence Thomas and, any of these guys have been enjoying holidays and taking advantage of these political donors, because, of course, it is a corrupt court. And how can you expect any justice at any level of the justice system, even down to local courts, if the Supreme Court is behaving in this manner and self-regulating and claiming they have their own code of ethics that they just don't apply? So, America is not in a great way, and I'm really trying to stand up for those who talk about it being the greatest country in the world. I want to bring perspective with other countries that are doing their bit for climate change because they know that it's real, whereas here in the US, it's been politicized. So there are so many things that we really need to do. I love this country and I choose to live here, but boy, does it need to, take a long, hard look at itself.
When people say it's the greatest country in the world, I always feel as though that's some reflexive comment, like
it's muscle memory.
Oh, right. It's when people say God is great in some, Islamic country or whatever. It's muscle memory, exactly. It's not based on any kind of evaluative process that has led you to that conclusion.
But also, I think part of the reason is because, if you live in the US, you don't really need to travel, right? And since I've lived in the US, I haven't really gone anywhere. I've traveled around the US because it's such a great country and there's so much landscape, there's different climate, there's different cultures, and you within 5 or 6 hours, you can really go anywhere. Now, when I lived in the UK, I would travel all around Europe all the time. And you only have to fly for 2 hours and they speak a different language and they have completely different culture and different values. And so you really learn an awful lot about how other nations do it. And I think this is the kind of isolationist problem of growing up in the US. There is a kind of, because of the scale of the US and the size of the territory, there isn't that kind of desire to be inquisitive about other cultures and other nations and how are other people doing it. And that's nobody's fault. It's just the fault of the landmass and the cost of travel and the fact that you make people work for 50 weeks of the year in America. I mean, that doesn't happen anywhere else either. In the UK, you get 5 weeks vacation, not 2 weeks vacation, plus you get 9 additional bank holidays and as many sick days as you want. You can't use up sick days and then they run out. If you're sick, you're sick.
Yeah.
So these are, and you don't pay for healthcare and education is free. It's like, and so I think the part of the problem is that, and this is why on 5 Minute News, I try and bring world news to American listeners and viewers, because the rest of the world does it differently. And it's really important to just to have a look and see how other countries are doing it, because, America is the greatest country in the world, but not for the reasons that people think.
I'd love to follow up on that on your next visit. I really would. As I say, I celebrate your international perspective, and yet, obviously, you know this country well by now. You can find him on the weekend show, the 5 Minute News. And I love by the way, your conversations go way longer than 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is a bit confusing. I called it 5 Minute News because that was the OG podcast. I still do that. It's a daily 5 Minute News podcast. You get it, drops into your podcast app every morning. So when you wake up, you hear me tell you the news, what's happening, 3 of the most important stories in the world. And then on Sundays, I do this thing with Midas Touch called The Weekend Show, hour-long interviews with the smartest people I can find. And, last week, we had Bandy Leon, who was the psychiatrist who diagnosed Trump as having malignant narcissism. And so, she has now talked about this Trump contagion phenomenon. This is the reason why people are so angry and upset and it's so divided. It's not a political issue. It's a mental health phenomenon. The country is suffering from a mental health disorder, because it's not normal to worship an individual like Donald Trump, to worship him in the way that he is. Democrats don't worship Joe Biden. some of them are waiting for him to pass away. So it's very, very different. And so she talks about this political division as being a mental health disorder that 70 million people are suffering from. And she says it is curable. So these are the types of conversations I have on the weekend show. And I learn something new every week.
Well, I enjoy those longer conversations that you have, and so I focus on those. But yeah, the 5-minute news already, you've got Katie here in the chat and several others saying that they've added it to their list. And so, it's terrific that you come visit us, and I hope we can do more. I mean, I so enjoy your takes. And as I say, I've been, since I was introduced to you, I've been watching a lot of your stuff, and I think it's just really great. So thank you, Anthony Davis, and we wish you a happy coronation, sir. That's a
I appreciate that. And anytime, Mark, I'm always here for you.
Oh, this is it. We have the coronation music.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Talk to a British Guy.
Yeah, this was great. It was a great British guy conversation. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, Mark. Take care. All the best.
Happy coronation, my friend. Good stuff. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Wow. We actually will be talking to a kind of royalty in just a moment. That's right. Smash the like button like a boss for the great Anthony Davis. He really was terrific. His show is great and his takes are great, and I really appreciate him taking a few minutes. Kim, because she's waiting, I'd like to get to her right away. And then we'll do an expanded newscast at the bottom of the hour. Would that be all right with you?
I think that's fantastic.
Okay. This lady I adore. She is a former talk show host at KGO Radio. And she's now doing some work at KCBS Radio, which is really cool. In fact, I've gotten some reaction from people going, it's so much fun to hear Pat on KCBS. And welcome her now. It took a lot to get her here. We had to coax her, so be nice. The great Pat Thurston, everyone.
Hey. Oh, it's so good to see you. Hi, Kimmy.
Hi.
And that guy, the British guy, wasn't he fantastic?
Yeah. He's terrific. Yeah.
Yeah, he's really cool.
Very, very cool. Pat, we adore you, and I'm anxious to get caught up with you on those things that you can catch us up with, and then maybe we can get your take on a few things that are going on in the world.
Okay.
Tell me what is happening in Pat Thurston land.
Well, I am working at KCBS, so I'm a news anchor. So I don't really get to engage one-on-one with the audience. I do get to interview some newsmakers, which is cool. And I'm delivering the news. And so it's great to be in San Francisco and to continue in broadcasting. And I really like it. And I hear from a lot of the former KGO people a lot. And that's really fantastic. Some of the regulars like Eid regularly contacts me about something Egyptian. And
he's always sending me stuff too. Look at this started in Egypt.
Yeah,
whatever it might be. Fill in the blank on what this is. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. As you made that move into KCBS land and as a news anchor, and I know that that's not your, what you've been doing, and I know you enjoy the longer form talk show as well. But has there been are you more connected in a way to the community because you're seeing and hearing news events in the city? There's so much going on. There are all of these retail closures. We just talked about the Nordstrom closure, for example. Right. The smash and grabs, the question of what really happened in the Lee killing, and then that revelations there. I mean, you have been riding herd over a pretty busy news cycle since you've been over there.
Yeah. And the thing is, we don't just do local, but we do an awful lot of local. But we did a lot of local when we were doing talk radio too. This is a little different because the emphasis is on bringing the news story to the listeners. And I think that it's in some ways, I guess it's expanded my horizons, but I've always kind of been a news junkie. So I get into that kind of stuff anyway. And I have brought on some of the same people that you've brought on. I mean, I've had David K. Johnston on, David Katz comes on, John Rothman comes on, so I get some of the regulars. I'm still working on Andrew Frackno. I haven't been able to get him on the air with us yet, but I have not given up because
I'm sure he'd love to do it.
About what's out there.
Yeah. Rothman comes on and we get into it, because Rothman, I really kind of hold his feet to the fire. Don't I, Albert? I don't give Rothman a pass. Rothman.
It always gets Kim thinking like, oh, mom and dad are arguing. Type of vibe
Hey, Albert. Hi, Albert.
Yeah,
Hello,
how about
Pat.
that?
Nice to hear you and see you.
I'm so excited. So I've been meaning, every time I go to a K-pop concert, I look out for you. my daughter has been taking me to K-pop concerts. And so she took me to BTS in Las Vegas, and we're going to TXT in Los Angeles the end of the month, and and she's taken me to a number of them. She's introduced me to ATEEZ and 17, and
wow, Pat, look at you!
Wow,
it's kind of
I don't even know what Pat's talking about. This is
Oh,
great. You guys have your own
She's
language.
drinking the juice, Mark. You need to try it.
They are
sometime.
wonderful people. And then there are these TV shows they're involved in. So I've been watching all those. We binge watch those. And it's a whole lot of fun. You kind of get to know them. Mark, you really should try it. K-pop's fun.
I guess, apparently. I mean, it's a real phenomenon.
It's amazing. Yeah. So it's very good.
I have a guest actually in the offing that he's very involved in K-pop, and I may bring him on now. I'd kind of forgotten about it. He was really instrumental in bringing Bono and U2 to the United States. So he's a good guest, and he'll be coming up. But I thank you for, what am I trying to say? Jogging my memory on it. Pat, what's happening in the world? What are the things that it's concerning, isn't it? The way the country is backsliding a bit, the reversal of Roe, and it's you've got the activist Supreme Court judges who are really committed, it would seem, to transforming the nation. You have one party in the Republican Party held hostage by the extreme right, which is really just about, as Anthony was saying before, kind of owning the libs. I don't even know that it's underpinned by any sort of real political philosophy. Yeah. I wonder if you can give me your take.
There are a number of things that are going on which I find concerning, and it kind of gets all down to there have always been kooks, and there have been kooks no matter which way they lean. There have always been kooks, but the kook faction seems to be increasing, and one of the problems is it's difficult to combat the kookery with facts, because even when you have the facts, they find some way to indicate that they're not going to believe that, no matter how much documentation, no matter how much proof you have about the facts. They're not going to believe it because somehow it's the deep state that's created it, or somebody who's pulling the strings, and it's just nonsense. So there's that. There's a lack of patriotism. And I mean that sincerely. And I mean that in terms of not only the cozying up to Vladimir Putin and anything that Putin does these days, but also the rejection of the founding of this country, the founding documents. Of course, we will always have as part of that founding the horrible scourge of slavery. But the founding documents were pretty amazing. And that Donald Trump has said, and others within the Republican Party, that faction, I don't really consider them Republicans, that faction of the party, they call themselves Republicans, but they're really not, who reject the Constitution, who believe that there should not be a Constitution. And then that connects with ethics. And for one branch of government, we have 3 equal branches of government. And yes, there is a separation of powers, but you know what there also is? There's supposed to be the ability to monitor one another, so that every branch of government sort of keeps watch on the other. So no branch becomes dominant over the other branches of government. They're supposed to be co-equal. And when you have the Supreme Court, who they claim they have ethics rules, but who seem not to care about abiding by those rules, or being transparent about what those rules are, or telling us about when people have been held to account under those rules. As a matter of fact, the Chief Justice, when asked recently, indicated that he's not aware of any time any member of the Supreme Court has been questioned about ethics violations. So there are the people in the background, the people who leaked. Oh, they're vile individuals. Those are people who are unethical. But what about the justices themselves? And what about the trust that people have to have in the court? It's one branch of government that I've always had faith in, and now I don't. And it's not just because of the political leanings. It's because of the things that have been revealed about ethics violations, that they're not trustworthy, that they're not necessarily acting in accordance with the Constitution and with their oath of office, but they may be acting in self-interest. And that's not okay. So all of those things combined have me a bit terrified.
Yeah, that's a good summary of where we are, particularly in relation to the court. It's immensely troubling. I was always, and I made this point to David K. Johnson, I think, yesterday, I was always troubled by the fact that Clarence Thomas, I mean, first of all, they're clearly activists. They're radical activists who lie through their confirmation process. I've made this point months ago. I mean, this idea of something, oh my God, I'm shocked there's gambling going on in my establishment. I'm shocked that these guys who lied during the confirmation process then become activists and then operate with an agenda once they get into the high court. But when Thomas didn't recuse himself from a case that involved his own wife, yeah. I mean, that just, I thought from a judicial standpoint, underscored this ridiculous, untethered quality that the court has. That doesn't even factor in the payoffs and essentially the luxurious lifestyle that is being provided by wealthy donors who have a political and business agenda before the court.
Exactly.
And they buy and pay for these justices.
More than one justice who's involved in this. Judge Ledig, we kind of, those of us who don't follow, court stuff all the time, we became acquainted with him during the January 6th hearings, the select committee hearings. Judge Ledig, he's a conservative. I mean, he's a conservative's conservative. All of his jurisprudence is based on conservatism. And he just came out and said that this is appalling. That the Supreme Court does not have fully established ethics standards and hold their people to those standards. Of all individuals within the government, he said, or I paraphrase, this is one of the most important because the people have to have faith in the courts. The Supreme Court, they're the ultimate arbiter of what is constitutional and what is not constitutional. They have such an enormous impact on our daily lives. It seems like some of the cases that they hear are, we don't care about them, but we should. We should try to understand them because all of them have some sort of impact on our lives. And right now, I don't think the American people have very much faith in the court, and that's really frightening.
Well, I mean, all the polls bear out exactly what you're talking about. I mean, the faith in the court is at I think, an all-time low in the modern era. There is a thing that happens, and you find it in, I think, the legislature, and you also find it, meaning Congress, and you also find it in the body politic, I mean, in legislatures across the country, and even in this sort of, it would seem, reanimated alt-right, and it's this. And you hear it, to be fair, you hear some of this rhetoric on the left or in the center, but, well, let me just tell you what the rhetoric is. It's, we're struggling for the soul of this country, for the essence of this country. It's a cause. The Supreme Court justices, these activist judges, they are informed by intense religiosity.
Yes.
And there is a cause there. And the whole idea of divorcing that religiosity from the judicial process, that has been lost. This country really, I think, has slid into this area where people feel that there is a divine imperative to do these things, when many Americans would question the existence of divinity and certainly don't see themselves as part of some organized religion. So you have these, in a way, they're our own mullahs, if you want to think of it that way.
But it's not just organized religion. It has to be their organized religion. It seems as if it really has to be Christianity among those conservative jurists that we're talking about. The other thing that's fascinating, and going back to the Constitution and the importance of it, is that right now the whole debt ceiling thing, I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of every single time, and they know they have to do it, and they they try to hold people hostage. Well, now there's this really interesting concept, and it has to do with the Constitution. It has to do with the 14th Amendment, and it has to do with presidential powers. The president, he is obligated to uphold the laws of the United States of America. He is obligated to do that, not just in his personal life, but across the board. That is something that he has to do. That's in the Constitution. Also in the Constitution, in the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, there's a little known or paid attention to little paragraph. I just read about this today. And it says that the debt that's incurred by the United States can't be ignored. It has to be paid. And if that's the case, and if the Congress is not going to raise the debt ceiling so that our current debts can be paid, then the president, according to a lot of constitutional scholars, could stand up and say, I'm going to assume this authority as the president because our debts have to be paid under the Constitution, and I have to uphold, all of the laws. And so he can lift the debt ceiling unilaterally. And while I hate the idea of a unitary president, I think in a case like this, it's exactly what the founders and later, because the 14th Amendment, of course, was much later, but it's what it's all about, is that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land and it has to be upheld. And by God, if you're going to take us down the toilet economically because you're going to try to hold the president hostage, in terms of raising this debt ceiling, and it's also hypocritical, Mark. It's also hypocritical. They've been known, you can see the video of all of them coming out and saying, you can't hold the country hostage, you have to raise the debt ceiling, when the Republicans in the White House. But when you've got a Democrat in the White House, suddenly, but this is just, we have to adjust our budget. Well, you do that, but you do that separately. You control the purse strings, but you do that separately. You do not hold the country hostage, and not in something that is as serious as this. This can have dire consequences, truly dire consequences.
Well, it
every single
already
American.
did the last time they downgraded the
That's right.
rating on the United States of America, the credit rating.
That's right.
Some of what Pat was talking about, if you just join us, we talked about in the opening half hour, which is sort of this this thing that's being legal scholars are kicking around and have been for it's being kicked around over the last couple of months, which is sort of what Pat's talking about, that the president could just, pay the debts of the country, doesn't need congressional approval.
And don't you want to see the president stand up and use his constitutionally granted powers when it would be so enormous in terms of protecting the nation? And it would also, put those people who are just committed to this vile system of politics where it's their way or the highway, it would put them back on their heels. Sort of like Disney is putting DeSantis back on his heels.
Right, it's true. I mean, that DeSantis is really getting a heavy helping of medicine, isn't he? Yeah. Miss you, Pat. Thurston, says Susan. Glad to see you back for a show. Let's hope the Democrats can save us and we will pay our debt. The Republicans aren't governing. They're destroying things. There is a sense of kind of just terrorism in the GOP. And I'm not some guy who signs on to everything the Democrats do either. And I've been very disappointed with Joe Biden. Now, you might imagine I'm a little disappointed because he's not radical enough. Right. When it comes to the environment. No, let me just finish, because I'm a tree hugger and I certainly see these pristine, wonderful wilderness areas that are now being okayed for drilling. I'm not cool with that. I mean, don't tell me you're an environmental president. And you do have all this, I think, transformative environmental legislation and planned evolution of this country that serves that environmentalism. But then you okay the Willow Project, and I understand it would have been a legal thing to unravel it because it was a Trump issued situation. But I still would have gone to court over it. And then you all okay all these leases in drilling in the Gulf. I mean, again, I don't sign on to everything, but it does seem that one party is more about terrorism, political terrorism, than the other.
The thing is, and a lot of Republicans thought that DeSantis might be the person who would rescue the Republican Party from the kooks that have kind of taken over. And it is unfortunate that it's not all of them. It's not even a majority of Republicans are like that. But the kooks have taken power, and I think they've done it because they'll do anything. They'll do anything to get their way, and it doesn't matter that it's not popular. It doesn't matter that it causes people to hate them. It doesn't matter that it hurts the party. What matters is that they have this particular agenda, and they're determined that they're going to succeed. I think of Matt Gaetz and I think of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I really do not consider them to be Republicans. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I can't believe that she has ascended to the heights that she has in Congress. She's from a very small district in Georgia, where the people are as kooky as she is. But how is it that members of Congress, that the Republican members of Congress, are elevating her when she is so uneducated, so ill-informed, so hateful? Her rhetoric, she doesn't know how to conduct herself. She doesn't know anything about decorum. She's like a burn it all down person. And for the party to elevate her, I think puts a big mark on the Republican Party. It's one of the reasons that people believe that the Republican Party today is the party of political terrorism.
Their envy, wonton killing. I don't know what a wonton killing is. I'm going to have to look that one up.
Yeah, it's wanton killing. Nice job. And that's scripture she's reading from. He's reading from scripture. You're right. I don't know if you've ever done any substitute teaching. It feels like you would be a great substitute teacher or teaching generally, but I've done a little bit of it. If you have one or two kids who are determined to disrupt the class will be disrupted. If somebody's throwing stuff, if somebody's, wisecracking, it's enough to derail the class, even though everybody else in the class may be excited about what you're doing. I feel as though that's what's happening with Marjorie Taylor Greene and her Confederates. They are those kids in the class that have disrupted it and then taken over the class because the principal is too weak to actually exert any sort of administrative restraint. That's the situation we find ourselves in, as you say, and as you say, the stakes are so very high.
Yeah, I agree. I hadn't thought about it in terms of classrooms, but it is true, because what a teacher will do if that disruption is too difficult is have the kids who are the disruptors removed from the class before it becomes complete chaos. And you've got Kevin McCarthy, who sold his soul to the devil in order to become the speaker. And in doing that, I think that's one of the reasons that he's willing to take the country down with this debt ceiling thing, is because he knows if he doesn't, it only takes one person in the House of Representatives to call for his removal. And that MTG, that Matt Gaetz, that those would be people who would rise up and demand his removal from the speakership.
Well, Gaetz actually was instrumental in rejecting this intermediate debt cap extension, which was talked about, because they're trying to, I suggest they're trying to make a statement politically, and they're just trying to gain political points. But with whom?
With whom are they going to gain those points? And that goes back to what you started with. They're gaining political points through misinformation, and really dangerous misinformation that is bereft of facts. And it's kind of important to be able to talk about facts, to be able to talk about your constitutional responsibilities, to be able to talk about consequences when you go down these roads. And the electorate has some sort of obligation to understand those things. The media has an obligation to provide as much of that information as possible, but the electorate has to have that in their hands so that they can cast intelligent votes instead of voting on, I hate Dems. Dems are woke. Wokeness is for some reason bad. And so I'm going to vote for the other guy who's going to take our country right into the toilet and is on the path of fascism right now.
Oh, fascism, and then, openly corrupt. It's crazy. You're right. Bereft is a ding word. Thank you, Julie. Yeah. And
that's a good word. Come on, ding me.
That's from the old KGO.
That's a good word. Come on, ding me.
That's right.
Well, Pat, it's exciting.
So demanding then, wasn't I, Mark?
You were what?
So demanding.
You were great, and you are great, and you continue to be great. And it's so cool that you spent some time with us. People are asking, is there a regular time that you're on KCBS that they can hear you?
No.
Okay. All right.
I'm working part-time there. And so I don't know my schedule usually until about a week before the week begins. I have been working a lot of weekend shifts, and those are pretty fun. I'm on the air then on the weekend from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. This weekend, I'll be on 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Tomorrow, I'm going to be on a late shift. I'll be on the air from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. And next week, I've got a couple of shifts in the daytime, then a night shift, and then I have the weekends again.
There's nothing better for you than to be working a couple of overnights, then a daytime, then to be shifting on it. All the doctors recommend that. Yeah, it's the best way to do it.
Well, that's for sure.
But the truth is that sometimes when you're working those late shifts, it's just you. There is a oneness with the audience, and also there's no management around, so it's a little less. It's more freeing sometimes.
Oh, it's true. Yes, it's true.
I've listened to you, and you're great at it. I think KCBS does a fine job. I have no issue with them. The sad thing for me is I just think you're a Formula One race car driver who's now driving an Uber in San Francisco. I mean, I think you're capable of such tremendous stuff as a talk show host, and I'd love to see, and it could still happen at KCBS even, that it'll evolve to you having your own little platform there. It might even start as a little platform and get bigger. I mean, I think that it could be a lot of potential at that station.
Yep, you never know.
You never know.
I want to say something about all these people who are sending in comments. Thank you. They're so kind. They're just great.
You're loved. You really are.
As are you. As are you. That's the reason they're here.
Well, of course, you're right about that, Pat. I don't like to make a big deal.
Do you know who I am?
I know.
I'm kind of a big deal.
I mean, it's no surprise in my case, Pat. I mean, look at me. But in your case, I think it's a lovely little element. All right, listen, will you come visit again? See, this wasn't bad. This is easy, right?
I will.
Yeah.
I will.
Okay.
And I have to tell Kim that I'll come visit her too when she's filling in, because I have not done that. And she's asked me many, many, many times. I owe you.
I noticed that you said yes to Mark and no to me.
Yeah, but he begged.
And who's your friend?
Slowly.
You're both my friends. Come on, Kim.
It's all how you ask, Kim. I'll talk to her. By the way, we're getting questions about the police jersey behind you. There's a police jacket or jersey.
It's not a police jersey. It's from what's the name of that TV show where they use the telephone booths in England and Doctor
Who?
Strange?
Who? Doctor Who. Wow.
Is what it is. Doctor Who. Yeah.
We had the Doctor Who documentary person on. Remember that? Do you recall that, Kim?
Yes, that was great.
God, that was the right answer. Kim is sometimes connected, sometimes not so much.
Public call box is what it says.
Public
call box.
Yeah. I went on a ride along with the cops this past weekend.
Oh, you did? How was it?
Yes, that for our next conversation. I talked a little bit about it yesterday. It was cool. I'll tell you this one thing. There was a robbery in progress that we rolled to. I like to use some of the jargon. We rolled to that. And
after the ATV.
It was a 459 in progress, everybody. Yeah. Anyway, the point is we're rolling to the 459, and they tell us over the radio that the intruder is still in the house.
Oh. There's never been anything like this.
Wow.
So you know me.
You got right out there.
I jump right out of the car and say, stand back, boys. I got this one.
What he's got going here
Mark,
is a situation.
You don't even have a vest on. This is too dangerous for you. I said, I don't know the word dangerous, Sarge.
Yeah. I can't wait for the actual show where you would do it.
Pat, I love you, and I'm so glad you were here. Absolutely the best. It was the greatest treat for me, and I'm looking.
What are the porn stars doing, Mark?
And we're looking forward to your next visit and listening to you on KCBS Radio from time to time. So that's a very cool thing.
Thank you so much. I can't wait till the next time.
All right, Pat. Our love to you and the family.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Pat Thurston. Awesome, awesome, awesome.
The Mark Thompson Show.
That was big fun. Yeah, I know. Smash the like button like a boss.
Smash it with your iron
For
rod.
Pat Thurston, for her whole crew.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Smash.
Smash it with
Need
your
those
iron
thumbs
rod.
up. I guess it matters, in this world. Very, very cool to have Pat on. Now, Kim's news, and we then get into some law and disorder. So there's a lot going on here. Kim, you ready?
Kim, how are you?
Are you
I'm
ready
ready.
for some news? All right.
Thumbs up.
Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and let's start with what is going on today in Texas. The man accused of killing 5 people in Texas is being held now on $5 million bond. San Jacinto DA Todd Dillon saying today the apprehension of Francisco Oropesa last night involved several law enforcement agencies, and the investigation is still far from complete. Dillon confirmed Oropesa's wife is also under arrest for allegedly helping him elude capture. President Biden's former executive assistant says she didn't notice any classified documents when she cleared his office as vice president. That's what Kathy Chung testified to the House Oversight Committee, according to CNN. She says she didn't go through the contents that included family photos and policy papers, though. Ukraine is denying being involved in an alleged drone attack that apparently targeted the Kremlin. A senior Ukrainian official in a tweet said Kyiv had nothing to do with the attempted drone strike, arguing the country is engaged exclusively in a defensive war and does not attack targets in Russia. He said the allegations from Moscow suggest Russia is planning a large-scale terrorist attack against the Ukraine, I should say.
Well, I mean, they've been involved in attacks of one sort or another on Kyiv, right? And the idea somehow they're going to step up their military action so that they focus on trying to take out Zelensky, I'd suggest that on some level that's just consistent with what they've been doing already.
Right.
So I don't know. There's the tactical nature of this war, I think, can be interpreted from many different perspectives. But maybe they are going to, I don't know what a terrorist strategy isn't that what it is? It's a
large-scale terrorist attack against Ukraine. The allegations that Ukraine went into Russia to attack the Kremlin would then, be used as some type of excuse or reasoning
to do it.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just suggesting that there's a war going on. So a full-scale terrorist action. Okay. I don't exactly know what that is, but it strikes me as a bit of saber rattling during all of this. I don't look, I wish this whole thing could wrap up, but it's because it's pretty brutal. War sucks. So
Democrats and Republicans are not budging on their position on the debt ceiling. While speaking from the Senate floor, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer criticized House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's debt limit bill that passed last week, arguing spending cuts would hurt families, veterans, and the stability of the economy. He called for a clean increase of the nation's borrowing limit. Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said months of inaction from President Biden has left the nation drifting toward economic disaster. I don't know about if it's inaction, because it seems like they're trying really hard to find a solution here. But we'll see how this works out.
I mean, again, we've kind of covered it today, but there's a lot of, you talk about saber rattling, you've got it on all sides, economic saber rattling on the part of both parties. But I would suggest that, this idea that you don't hold the nation and our debts hostage to political considerations. That was the statement made by Trump during the last administration. And you see it always made by the GOP when it's a GOP president like Trump. Now Biden's in power, and what are they doing? They're holding the nation's debt hostage. So
surprise, surprise. Oakland. Thousands of Oakland public school teachers are planning to strike tomorrow unless they can come to an agreement with the Oakland Unified School District before then. The Oakland Education Association, which is the teachers' union, has been fighting for higher pay, smaller classes, more student resources, and repairs at many of the schools. Comedian Pete Davidson, he was all set to host the SNL, Saturday Night Live, this weekend, but nope, feeling the effects of the TV writers' strike now. The program is being canceled, SNL, because of the strike. SNL joining other shows that are going dark in solidarity with union members, including The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel Live. So Saturday Night Live, no live one this weekend.
Yeah, Colbert's another one in New York that's going to go dark. We talked about it in the first hour if you missed it, but I think it could be a very long strike. They're very far apart, the two sides.
4 first-time nominees are inductees into the 2023 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Sheryl Crow, Missy Elliott, George Michael, and Willie Nelson are joined by Kate Bush, Rage Against the Machine, and the Spinners in the performer category. The induction ceremony to be held in November in Brooklyn. And this one, I've got a video for you. I don't know if you saw it. There's a West Virginia principal that got quite a surprise. Quite a surprise. He went checking the dumpster near the school, and that was on Monday morning, and then came face to face with a black bear who had somehow managed to climb into the dumpster. Let me get rid of Pete Davidson and show you this video, which is just wild.
He's approaching the dumpster now. The dumpster top goes out, and there's this huge black bear gets out.
Huge black bear. They come face to face. I would say this principal, he moves fast. I mean, if you watch, he walks around the side.
Yeah.
Look. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's pretty impressive how quickly he moves. The black
and then the bear jumped out and then ran away back.
Yeah,
in the
runs
woods
the other
also.
way. Wants no trouble.
Right.
Yeah. So watch it. And this woman, she pops out for a hot second and goes, she makes no move to save the principal. He said, yeah, he had to catch his breath after this whole thing, that this was this kind of a big wake up moment for them.
Mindy says it right. The bear just wants out, not the guy.
The bear just wants out. The school had put a lock at Zella Elementary School in West Virginia. School had put a lock on this dumpster, and I guess this black bear was so big that it had been going in and out all weekend, according to security cameras, and it was growling and roaring when the lid was flipped up. But yeah, he just wanted to get away. So kind of a scary situation. The Mark Thompson Show is crowdfunded, which means that we rely on you to help fund the show. You can find the Patreon and the PayPal links at themarkthompsonshow.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show.
Don't make us beg. Subscribe, like, and share. The Mark Thompson Show. The Mark Thompson Show.
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Everything is going extremely well. I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Apologize to every preacher and pastor.
What he's got going here is a situation.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
No, no, no.
60% of the time, it works every time.
We still have a few moments left. And what a show it has been. great to have you part of things. Please share this show on Facebook. You know, I know a lot of you kids have Facebook pages. If you can share the show there, just get the word that the show is on this platform. If you can get that word out, that helps us. It helps expand our presence. And slowly, I mean, it really is a slow process. We can get the word out that we're here. So I appreciate everybody who shares the show. Of course, I appreciate you smashing the like button like a boss.
With your iron rod.
So that is really, really cool. And I do have some shout outs, a quick thank you for those who have thrown something into our virtual tip jar. We are crowdfunded, so appreciate that. Jim Slayton, Tissue Wednesday. That was for Kim's Cry Fest. Yeah.
You were a little teary as well, I have to say.
Well,
yeah.
I'm an emotional man. What can I say? Let the Fed make the 1 trillion platinum coin. Exactly, says Edward Lee. Right? Thank you so much for throwing in. We need to post some. Do we post these when they come in, Albert? Edward Lee for half your age?
Yeah.
Okay, we do. Half your age
I
plus
definitely
7.
posted this one, the bro science with the behind the how young you could go as a man.
Yeah, how long we were talking before about Dick Van Dyke and the age of his wife, which as I recall was 53, was it? And then
Kevin Costner.
We were
She was 49. Yeah.
She was 49. And Edward Lee says it's half your age plus 7. No, that's cool. Luis, why not start an MT intellectual trivia skee ball where you earn tickets toward fabulous prizes? Yes, LOL. I thank you for the throwing in with the super chat. I will tell you so much.
Big shout out.
I will tell you this. So much is being made of the awards that we grant to people, the points that we grant. And Kim brought it up earlier.
The Mark Thompson player's card. Yeah,
a player's card where there could be some sort of redemption at the end of it. I think we should take a meeting on it anyway.
Yeah, we can have like a bingo card and people could just fill it out throughout the show or something like that, right?
Yeah. I think these are good suggestions. Sadly, they require time and attention, of which we have little. But I am going to, I'll meet with the advisory board and maybe something will happen. But right now, Luis,
You get nothing.
That's right.
Is the advisory board Mark just walking into the other room and then talking to yourself a little bit and then coming back into the room and giving us the news?
Well, it is, the deliberative process is simpler than it may sound, Albert, if that's what you're suggesting, that maybe it's...
Albert, thank you.
Can't make it tomorrow, but here's a little something for the tip jar, says Gail Guthrie. Big shout out.
Yeah.
Gail is a regular listener, viewer, and supporter, and she's left us $20 for the tip jar. Thank you. I'm not going to cry.
I'm not gonna cry.
But I have to say, Gail is cry territory for sure with the amount of support she produces and provides regularly. Tiff MLA throws us 20. Love this show. Hi, Mark, Kim, and Albert.
Kim, how are you?
So
there
nice.
you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tiff. Appreciate that. Miguel Ponder for 2024. Thurston Thompson in 2024. Right on.
Big shout out.
Big shout out, Miguel. I love that idea. Running with Pat Thurston. Keith Johnson for $20. Big shout out. Wow, what a day with contributions today. Thank you. It really does help. I mean, we are crowdfunded. I'm telling you, when the contributions go away, we are screwed. But really appreciate that, Keith. So thank you for that.
Mark, I'm looking for a major announcement. I can't find my major announcement drop.
Oh, I have it. I have a major announcement.
A major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
I think we're going to have 2 major announcements. And there it is. Maud, we love you. You don't have to beg. $100 donation, day of. And Maud, I'm not going to
cry. I'm not gonna cry.
I'm not gonna. But I'm saying, Maud, you have dragged me to cry territory.
I'm not gonna cry.
I am going to give you a thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maud. Truly, we love you. You don't have to beg.
Thank you.
It really is great. And I have to say, you know, it's so weird to live this close to the edge in terms of making payroll and things we have to do and things we're trying to do. So it really does help. I want you to know, all of you who contribute a lot, contribute a little, go to our Patreon page. It all matters. So I'm going to cry at Maud, says Jim Slayton. That's right. Maud making the crowd cry. So I also have another major announcement.
A major announcement from the Mark Thompson Show. A major announcement.
I believe we now have only wait lists left for tomorrow's event. So if you want to join us tomorrow, I have filled all spots except there is a wait list. And right now, based on my back and forth with people, the wait list is open, meaning other people on the wait list, you know, couldn't do it. They, you know, I want to be there, but I can't. You know, my kid has this, blah, 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 blah. I've heard it. A lot of different things, a lot of different reasons. So if you want to join, you can. The happy half hour is tomorrow night. It's an off-air meeting. We can talk about anything. Don't we have a, there it is, happy half hour. It's actually 45 minutes, so it'll be more than just a half hour. There are only 15 spots. And the reason for that is we want to be able to talk with everybody. And if you have too many people on a Zoom call, you can't talk with everybody. Again, it's off the air. You don't have to be on camera if you don't want to. It's a meet and greet with me and everybody on our show. John Daly is going to participate. Albert's going to beam in from his side gig. Kim will be there. Courtney will appear on camera. It's a private off-air Zoom meetup, 7 to 7:45, really, tomorrow night. $75 for a link because we're trying to raise money for the show. And again, we filled spots, but there is now a wait list. So if somebody comes up and says, hey, I can't be there, you will get that spot. To register, go to the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. Just give us your name, email, and phone number, and we will give you instructions. The Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I'll get everybody a link to join by midnight tonight. You'll have a link. So that'll be cool. Now, that link is just for you. So if you're one of these 15 people, you'll get a link. But again, if you're interested, ping us now, and there may be an opening still, even though technically there are no more spots open.
We had a lot
Albert?
of
Yeah.
We had a lot of questions about whether we're going to tape it and make it available for people to watch. But I think it's kind of a private thing. You know, people might not want their questions aired. It's kind of just a little party gathering.
We discussed it, and we came up with the answer, no. It's not going to be taped. It's going to be completely off the record. It's going to be completely a meeting, just the people who are in the meeting. Now, we can talk about what was spoken of, and we can talk about what happened, of course, and we will. But the actual meetup will not be taped, and it will not be broadcast, and it's just a meetup for the people who are part of the meetup. So, again, if you're interested in it, it's the Mark Thompson Show at gmail.com. Just give us your name, your number, and we'll get you hooked up. And it's my experience, the reason I keep saying that there's a wait list, that people do drop out at the last minute. And so I'd love for somebody who wants to be there to be part of the group. And I'm not going to extend it beyond 15 because I want everybody to be able to visit. You know, you have too many people on a call. It's just too difficult. So, all right, that's that. A lot going on. Let's do some law and disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people, pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care, are represented by two separate yet equally important groups. A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law. You're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news. These are their stories.
Well, it's troubling times in the Bay Area. We start in San Francisco. Prosecutors are not going to charge the security guard in the fatal Walgreens shooting. They're saying it was a self-defense situation. The security guard was arrested for shooting and killing a person inside this Walgreens in the city. The security guard's been released from jail. Prosecutors declined to pursue charges. The statement said the evidence clearly shows that the suspect believed he was in mortal danger and acted in self-defense. Michael Earl Wayne Anthony, accused of fatally shooting 24-year-old Banco Brown during what police are calling a shoplifting incident. We cannot bring forward charges when there is credible evidence of reasonable self-defense. Doing so would be unethical and create false hope for a successful prosecution, according to the statement out of Brooke Jenkins' office. It's insane that Walgreens has armed security. There's nothing in that store worth a human life, said a rep for the Young Women's Freedom Center. I have to say that this is a strange place we find ourselves in, where there's so much shoplifting going on, and there's so much retail theft and a threat to the environment in which you shop in these various retail establishments from time to time. And it threatens to produce a sea change in that retail environment. And by that, I mean they'll put everything behind, I already showed you the Target in San Francisco, where they put everything behind glass. So you end up with this radically changing retail environment, and then you end up with these retail establishments going away. So cut to a security guy who's there, and he gets into an altercation with this person who he ends up shooting. And I get that everybody has a history that they bring to a situation, but that's true on both sides. So,
I'm surprised the security guard had a gun.
Yeah, an armed security guard.
Yeah.
And boy, I the more I read about this, you see that the person who was killed, had their own crisis going on. This is a classic situation in which the backstory and narratives that inform any kind of moment are not irrelevant. They're super relevant, and yet the outcome may be objectively evaluated as it was by the DA, and it's sort of like self-defense. Boom. The shooting was originally called in as a shoplifting incident, but neighbors in the area in San Francisco say the shoplifting is a part of a much bigger problems. They're part of much bigger problems in the area. People are struggling to make a life for themselves, the quote is, from a San Francisco resident who was quoted. They're struggling to build a life for themselves and having even more difficult time doing it nowadays. What's happening right now in San Francisco is an absolute humanitarian crisis. This is not an isolated incident. London Breed could not comment on the specifics of that case. Meantime, that Uber driver in Oakland is a DoorDash driver. Both of them injured during that carjacking in Oakland. He and his dog survived a violent attack. It was at a fast food drive-thru in Oakland. He was picking up a DoorDash order in the Jack in the Box drive-thru line on International Boulevard and 24th Avenue in Oakland just before midnight. Thieves fired into the car. Bullets flew into the back of his car and back windshield that night. 3 armed robbers demanded his car through this half-open window in the car. He says he was pistol whipped multiple times. They hit me in the back of the head, he says, with 4 hits, 3 hits from them. He said of his injuries that sent him to the hospital, it was as though they just didn't stop. His German Shepherd Husky mix Bella was in the back seat during the takeover. She was injured in the leg. She had surgery on that leg last year. They started hitting my dog. I just heard screaming or yelping from my dog in the moment. And then he started hitting me in the back of my head, and I opened the door, I got my dog out, and they just took off. He called 911. It took officers 25 minutes to meet him, he says. There were a lot of people, too, around me. People were in the parking lot. People were in the drive-thru. But in a second, I find myself alone in the whole Jack in the Box. In other words, nobody did anything. I mean, it's scary. These people have guns. His car was eventually found in undrivable condition, stripped of its catalytic converter, dented and dumped, according to the Oakland cops. It's kids like maybe 16, 17, or 18, it was said. They're very comfortable. I was shocked.
Mindy comments, 25 minutes it took the cops to show up? That's a long time for a violent assault like that.
Exactly. That's why the guy mentioned that it took the cops 25 minutes to get there. Now, this DoorDash driver is facing mounting bills and expenses, $1,250 in impound lot and tow fees. Police waived about $400 in fees connected to their investigation. There's an impound lot and tow fee that he has to pay after he was violently attacked by 3 dudes with guns? Are you kidding me? Oakland police later clarified that his vehicle was released for him to pick up on a Friday, but he was still in the hospital and unable to get the vehicle until the following Monday. So he incurred additional fees because of the delay. Come on, guys. Seriously? You're going to charge a guy who was in the hospital? I mean, I'm just saying we may want to rethink that. I don't get that.
We have processes and protocols and standards.
I'm sorry. That's one you need to rethink. The victim of a violent robbery was in the hospital, unable to pick up his car, which was in your impound lot. So you charge him for additional days? Come on, man.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Ron gets it. Ron gets it. Poor guy. He's driving for DoorDash, trying to make things meet. He's, human daddy to this dog, and then the dog is hit too, and then he gets hit with those charges. And finally, in Law and Disorder, the Iowa mother who posted that she stormed the Capitol. Yeah, she was part of the J6 crew. She finally, Deborah Sandoval, 56 of Des Moines, Iowa, pleaded guilty, everybody. That's the,
Guilty to what?
She pleaded guilty to entering and remaining in a restricted building or grounds. And you're right. Let me say it first. Really? What?
What?
On a video played during a previous court appearance, Sandoval is heard saying, "Get her S out of here," referring to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She later described her conduct that day, saying, "We stormed the Capitol." In social media messages, she posted that. She was sentenced to 5 months in prison, followed by 12 months of supervised release and a re-entry hearing in court. She's also ordered to pay $500 in restitution. Her son, of course it's not enough. Her son, Salvador Sandoval, one thing we've learned is that none of this stuff's, these punishments are way weak. Her son, Salvador Sandoval, was convicted in December for his role in the attack. So it was a family affair, she and the son. Yeah. Good times, everybody.
Sure, Mother's Day will be really fun.
That's Law and Disorder for today.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on the Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
I know. It's rough, man. It's hard out there for Mama Pimp. Deidre Lozica, so generous. Thank you for having Pat on today. Big shout out. To Lozica. Put it back up there, Albert. How dare you take that down? $25?
That was me. I did it, not
Deidre,
Albert.
how dare you, Kim?
Kim, how are you?
I thought you were done.
Thank you for having Pat on today, she says. Deirdre, you're so supportive, and thank you, everybody over at Lozica Concrete. I almost wish I could build something with concrete just to give Lozica Concrete some business. I'm thinking about the things that I might be able to do with concrete.
New
They
driveway,
give Lozica
perhaps?
Concretes and what?
New driveway you need? Maybe a sidewalk way?
I just put in a new driveway. Wish I'd known about Lozica before. I don't know. Let me think about it. Maybe I'll buy somebody something in concrete so I can bring Lozica Concrete some business. I don't know. Why is the J6 ringleader still walking around? I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. That case is not done, so I will speak to that square. Thank you for your question. I also got an angry email, which I'll share with you, a series of angry emails.
What?
And, yeah, I know.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Oh, this wasn't one of them. I invited the guy on. I said, come on the show. And he goes, really? You have a show? They let people who are socialists have a show? I said, socialist? Where do you get that? I mean, it's just like, I don't know. They just like their name calling, so I don't know. Big show tomorrow. Big. David Katz joins
I'm
us tomorrow.
Shadler Stevens for The Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thanks to everybody who joined us today.
All the
Kim,
time. Bye.
Albert, we love you. Love you all who joined. Nikki's next over on the Nikki Maduro channel. Bye-bye.
Thank you.